Good
So are
afternoon,
you starting
everyone.
off with an introduction, Shashank?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I, Shashank, on behalf of NEN and Wadhwani Foundation, would like to invite you all for this webinar and also introduce our expert. Mr. Sanjay Anandaram has 25 years of experience as an entrepreneur, investor, and corporate executive. As a passionate advocate of entrepreneurship, he is a mentor, board member, and occasional angel investor in startups in India and the US. He is a venture partner with Seed Fund, an advisor to Ojas Ventures, and is involved with social venture funds, Innovent and United Seed Fund. He has taught business plan workshop as visiting faculty at INSEAD Business School, Singapore campus, is a charter member of TIE Bangalore, where he coaches entrepreneurship acceleration and education initiatives, is a member of NASCOM initiatives in innovation and entrepreneurship, an advisor to NSR Cell in IIM Bangalore, a senior advisor to National Entrepreneurship Network, and has been a working group member of Indo-US Council on Entrepreneurship in Academia. Before I hand over the floor to Sanjay, here are a few reminders for the audience. You will all be on mute. You may ask a question by typing in the panel provided. Over to you, Sanjay.
Great. Thank you, Shashank, and good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me clearly. So, good afternoon, and welcome to this webinar on building an A team. Excuse me. I'm told that almost all of you are entrepreneurs and are founders of your own startups, so congratulations. And I'm sure you will appreciate the fact that the number one challenge that stands between you and success is in building an A team that will help you navigate the various hurdles that every startup faces. So what I have done is I have put up 5 points on my first slide. These are intended to essentially provide you guidelines, provide an umbrella to all the issues that I'm sure no doubt are plaguing you, and then thereafter hopefully have you use these as the templates for asking your questions or concerns that you are immediately faced with or that you grapple with on a daily basis. The first question is that usually most startups tend to have is, who do I hire? Invariably, when you start off by having your close friends, whether from college or whether from your company that you've been working in. You typically tend to start off by having the founding team comprise of people who you know very well. Thereafter, the network becomes slightly larger, again from your college or from your past working associations. You tend to find people. So then at that point of time, the question really isn't who do I hire, because you only hire those who you know and you know well, and who are more often than not social friends as well. Now here's where the problem starts. As you start evolving, you suddenly discover that, hey, whoever was a good friend of mine, I never really figured out whether he was able to handle things in stressful situations. I never figured out whether he was prone to working very, very long hours, whether he was really a multitasker. In short, you never really evaluated a person before having him or her on your founding team. And as your company starts taking off, suddenly you discover that there are these kinds of issues that crop up. There are ego issues, there are emotional issues, there are chemistry related matters in that two people don't get along, somebody is not good at managing some folks, some people have attitude issues, some people say, hey, you know what, you told me my working hours are going to be from 9 to 6, and therefore it's now 6 o'clock, I'm going home. Some people will have financial difficulties, etc., etc. So the question really then becomes, who do I hire? And the most important question in every founder's mind. So principles first, you hire people who share your vision, your passion, and your goal, right? So there has to be what's called goal congruence. In other words, both of you must agree that I want to go from A to B. That's the first point. So there must be someone who really has the same energy, the same passion, the same belief that yes, this is the company that will help us go from point A to point B. And point A to point B is not in terms of money, but in terms of the activities and the larger objective. The second question in terms of who do I hire is therefore, what kind of a person should I have? What kind of a person? In terms of their value systems, in terms of their culture, in terms of their ability to work long hours, in terms of their ability to take on multiple tasks, etc., etc. And therefore that becomes another important question, right? So while two people are my friends, should I really hire a friend or should I hire someone who is competent, who is capable? All too often we substitute loyalty and competence. And remember, these two are not substitutes. Just because somebody is loyal to me does not make that person capable or competent enough to be part of the company or to deliver value to the company. On the other hand, I could have somebody with whom I don't get along or who is not an easy person to get along with, but is extremely capable and competent in the various tasks that a company is faced with, right? And therefore, making this trade-off is very, very crucial, and understanding that the best friends need not necessarily be the most capable or competent given the context of your startup, right? So those are some of the very crucial things you need to keep in mind as you talk about who do I hire. So once you're clear about the kinds of people that you want to hire, then you have to start worrying about what specific skills do I need to hire and what am I going to be paying for. End of the day, there's a cost, and the cost is something that you have to bear in mind very, very carefully. And what to hire, meaning what kinds of skills, what kinds of competencies. And therefore, remember that it takes more than one person to build a company. It takes different kinds of skills at different stages of a company. I presume since all of you are early stage and involved in technology, your number one challenge will be in finding the right kind of technical resources. Number two will be trying to find the product management, product marketing kinds of resources, sales, business development, right? These are all the kinds of in-house resources that you want to be able to hire. Now, how do you realize when do you need what kind of skill? All too often, technical founders just deep dive into what they're building and they think they have the answer. The most important capability in a startup, especially if you're building out something in the area of technology, whether it's mobile or the net or whatever, is to get people who understand the product management and product marketing kinds of capabilities, right? And these people are not easy to find, and therefore they will cost you an arm and a leg. And the other question that comes up is, therefore, what do I pay for? There's this wonderful developer, he's got 2 years of experience, but hey, he's going to cost me like 10 lakhs, right? So the question you should really ask is not whether it's going to cost you 10 lakhs, but the question is, having this person on your team subject to that individual meeting the earlier criteria that was answered when I spoke about who do I hire in terms of passion, competencies, chemistry, attitude, and things of that nature. If it meets all of those criteria, then the question is, by having this individual on my team, is this 10 lakhs cost that I'm likely to incur over 1 year, is that going to pay off by having a really superior product experience available for my customers in, let's say, 6 months, as opposed to having 3 engineers or 2 engineers doing it in 9 months or 1 year. That's the evaluation. The second thing that you have to worry about is the person really excited by what I'm offering, by way of my company's vision, by way of the technology, by way of the roadmap? And therefore, if that person is really excited, then that person would be willing or should be willing to take stock or equity in the company in return for a discounted cash compensation. So if a person was making, let's say, 10 lakhs somewhere else, can I hire this person now for, let's say, 6.5 lakhs and some equity in my company, right? Because these are all early hires, and therefore the ability of the founder or the founding team to be able to communicate, convey the vision, the passion, the energy, the potential of the company, therefore becomes very, very crucial. And hence, one must realize that all of this boils down to relationships. What does that mean? People join people because they feel a certain connection. They believe that there is a certain bonding, that whether it is in by way of having known the individual, or by hearing good things about that individual, or by being excited by the passion and the goal. So relationships, maintaining relationships is very, very crucial. And in today's world, where there is social media, there are so many events happening all over the city, all over the country, there is access to international forums and the like, maintaining, building relationships excuse me, with different communities, whether they're different entrepreneurs, whether they're different user groups, whether different events and people that I meet, all of these are very, very crucial to be able to maintain. And one must have the ability to build relationships and network with people up and down the peer group. So if I am an engineer and I go and talk to another engineer at another entity, I must also be able to go and talk to a sales guy or a marketing guy. And all these people are available. One meets them at different forums. One meets them at different events. For example, next week there is the NPC in Bangalore, which is a large, the product conclave. There'll be lots and lots of people there. The question really is, how many of those people have you networked with? And thereafter, how many have you gone and met? Because only after meeting people do one realize that yes, this person is good, this person has the same kind of attitude that I like, has an appreciation for the technology that I'm building, etc., etc., right? So, and leveraging social networks and other networks become very, very important. And this is especially true in India, where we are not known for our for being outgoing, for networking with people, for building relationships with people that we don't know. And it's very, very important that we learn to build that. And therefore, if you have the right kind of people in terms of the goals and the chemistry and attitude, you know how to be able to compensate them, what kinds of skills that you wish to bring on board, and you were able to maintain relationships, then what happens, the chances of attrition start dropping. People who join you for money will also leave you for money. And most people leave companies not because of compensation. Most people leave companies for two reasons. Number one, the boss, and number two, the kind and quality of work that they're doing. So if it is not a learning environment, it is not a challenging environment, it is not something where my own profile is getting enhanced, right, then there's going to be frustration. If my boss isn't somebody I enjoy working with, if my colleagues and teammates and the workplace is not enjoyable, you have a problem. So there is always, it is easier to fix the issue of the boss and fix the issue of the learning and challenging environment for people than it is to keep throwing money at the problem, because that is not a solution, because that results in a never-ending spiral. And unless you have access to large amounts of money, that is certainly not something that is advisable. So being able to respect somebody, treat them fairly, treat them with the right kind of transparency, right? All of these things become very, very crucial in being able to manage attrition. And what's the training that one is providing? Because for most people who start a company, they have never recruited anybody in their lives. They have never managed a team of 10, 20, 40, 50 people. So how do you expect somebody to manage this all of a sudden? what is the investment one is making by way of either sending them to a training program or going and meeting mentors outside, by going and talking to industry experts, going and talking to former bosses and others in larger companies and asking them, hey, how do I manage people? What kind of process do I have? So essentially that becomes a leveraging of the relationship that becomes important for one to be able to manage issues of attrition and the like. And therefore it's very crucial that you think about using every single opportunity for building the relationship, for ensuring that you're investing in the growth of your people, and therefore giving people who are unhappy, for example, an opportunity to come and express their unhappiness. What is the forum in the company where somebody is not happy? How does one therefore create a culture of transparency? How does one ensure that there is no politics in the company? So all of these are serious managerial challenges that need to be thought of at the very beginning of the company setup itself. Why? Because these are all foundational infrastructure, soft infrastructure issues of a company. The hard infrastructure is your office building and your computers and your servers and stuff like that. The soft infrastructure is the people and the culture and the process. And very, very crucial, because this is what is going to be the foundational elements for your startup, for your company. So what is it that you are doing to be able to create this right environment? For example, what is the position of the company with regard to, let's say, paying bribes? What is the position of the company with regard to customer service? What is the position of the company with regard to treating employees who have problems? What is the position of the company with regard to responding to queries, right? I mean, I know enough startups where there's a huge complaint, there's a lot of unhappiness because being a startup, they're resource starved, but there is no clarity on what the policy is on, let's say, travel. Is my phone bill going to be reimbursed or not? Is there medical insurance available to me or not? If I travel on work for business, what is the reimbursement I get? Okay, and very simple, small things. And then if I submit a reimbursement claim, that gets settled after 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So these are all problems that need to be addressed. I'm not saying that you have the money to be able to pay it immediately, but be open and transparent and tell people, hey, I have a financial issue right now. There's a cash flow problem. I will be able to pay you in the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks, right? And recognizing, rewarding people for their work done. It can be a simple thing, 5 people, 10 people, all of you in the company get together, just go out, enjoy a nice beer once in a while, recognize, reward the contributions of each other, and today in the era of blogs and various other posts, acknowledge that, because people like to be acknowledged, people like to be told they're good. At the same time, be conscious and open and transparent to be able to give honest feedback that, hey, you know what, this is something that you need to improve upon, and be able to have these conversations. And these are very, very important, and all of these points I'm making are foundational points in that these are the ones that will help you build a robust company with a great culture that can be taken forward. And then as you grow forward, you have to deal with the issue of growth, right? How do you manage growth of people? Everybody wants to have a career growth. I joined this company as, let's say, a regular engineer. 5 years later, what am I doing? Am I still an engineer? So therefore one has to understand aspirations of people. Some people want to remain engineers, some people want to become managers, others want to do marketing, somebody else wants to do something else, whatever it is, right? Keeping an open channel of communication at all times ensures that feedback is received. More importantly, feedback is taken, is understood, and action is taken based upon the feedback received from the employees. And then you have to be able to have conversations with the employees and telling them, look, this is the step forward, this is the game plan, this is how the company is going to grow, And as it grows, these are the opportunities that are likely to open up. And which one of these do you think would you be interested in? Why do you think you'd be interested in this? Do you think you have the skills and capabilities to add value there? If not, what kind of training do you think you need? So the entire process of dialogue is absolutely crucial and important. Okay? Now moving on to the next slide. So what I've done is I put a bunch of quotes here, quotes that I have personally read and heard, and ones that I think have a lot of value. And it's important that I sort of very quickly go through these, and you'll appreciate the value of these. You can Google for it and read more about it, but fundamentally these are things that are important for you to keep in mind. You know, A-grade people hire A-grade people, B-grade people hire C-grade people. What does that mean? It means that you believe you're very good, then go and hire a very good person. Don't compromise and hire somebody who is worse than you. And typically you find that good people, people who believe they are very good, tend to hire good people. Good meaning competent, capable, with the right mixture of passion and attitude and all of that. Whereas those who are insecure, those who are the B-grade people, always tend to hire people who are worse off. So they want people who will only do stuff that is told to them, people without initiative, those they can command, those that they can control. So keep this thing in mind and say, you know what, it doesn't matter if this guy has an attitude, as long as his culture and his competence levels are fantastic, right? It is worth having this person on board versus having somebody with no initiative, with no competence, but only that he just listens to me and therefore I will hire him, right? So never ever make that mistake. Second, build a meritocracy, not a meritocracy. A meritocracy means, as the word says, mirror, right? Meaning don't hire everybody who looks and behaves and talks and smells and walks the same way. Let there not be uniformity in people in terms of capabilities, attitudes, and so on. So build meritocracy, meaning focus on people who have merit, who are capable, who are competent, and who want to strive and be recognized for their achievements. Not people who are absolute factory worker types where everybody is like on an assembly line doing exactly the same kind of job day after day and behaving, acting, talking, smelling exactly like each other, right? That does not build a healthy organizational culture. There has to be a culture of debate, there has to be a culture of diversity. That is how new ideas come, that is how arguments take place, that is how new ways of thinking and innovation occurs. So very, very important that you focus on that. Hire people who are better than you, and this can be something of a huge ego problem for a lot of folks. How can I hire somebody who's better than me? Then what will I do? So the question really therefore becomes, it's not therefore about what the company needs, it then becomes a question about me, my ego, and my role in the company, right? So always focus on getting somebody better than you, because that's the only way the company itself will evolve. The company itself will become better. And remember that what is good for the company is always good for you, but what is good for you need not be good for the company. Okay? And please keep that in mind. And hiring somebody who is better than you means that the company is likely to grow, and as the company grows, there are more opportunities for everybody. So therefore, it serves a far greater good. This one is a negative thing in the sense, never hire someone who knows less than you about what that person is supposed to do. It's sort of pretty self-explanatory and pretty obvious, but all too often we make that mistake. And finally, hire for attitude, train for skills. What does it mean? A lot of time you look at the way a job posting is put up and the kind of skills people are seeking, and you notice that excuse me, there's a flight overhead. Yeah. So hire for attitude. And attitude means what? Somebody who's gung-ho, somebody who's a go-getter, somebody who's passionate, who's driven, who wants to make a task happen, who's not afraid of putting in long hours, who's coming up with new ideas all the time, who's willing to sweat it out and make things happen. That's the kind of person you want. That's the kind of person with the right culture, the right value systems. That person can be trained for skills. Looking for the exact skill is very likely you will not find, because there is nobody who's an exact fit from a skill standpoint alone who meets your requirements. Look for the right, competent, capable, culturally and value system wise fit person, okay, and then you can always train people. You know, we've had people who moved from mainframe computing to Ruby on Rails kind of programming, people who moved from, you know, one domain to another domain, all because they had the right attitude. And therefore it's very, very crucial that you keep that aspect, that mindset alive. No, don't look for the perfect solution, because that does not exist. So the real question therefore is, these are the quotes from some others. I would love to hear what your own quotes are as you make your own journey. Okay? And then moving on, there are some other upcoming webinars, etc., that I think Shashank will talk about. So I stop my thing here and I'll open up for Q&A. And you know, I really hope that you have your own questions and concerns that you wish to be responded to. Thank you very much.
Let's begin with the question and answer round now. I just have a request, Sanjay. I'm getting feedback from the audience that my voice is echoing. So if you can hear the question, what I'm saying, can you please repeat it before you're answering?
Okay.
Okay. The first question is from Sunil Bansal. He says he's an aspiring entrepreneur who's working on an idea. So he has got 2 senior industry folks advising him, but none of them are investing or working full-time with him. He intends to launch his company in the next 3 months, but he's not able to decide whether he needs co-founders or just employees. Can you suggest him some options for this?
Yeah. So the question really is from Sunil Bansal. He wants to know, he's about to launch his company. He wants to know whether he should be bringing on board co-founders or employees. He has 2 senior industry executives advising him, but they have not expressed any willingness to join the company yet. Is that right? Is that the right question?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So the response to that, Sunil, is this. Don't worry about nomenclature, you know, whether it is a co-founder or a, you know, the first employee or whatever. The important thing is, what is the role and responsibility that these individuals will have? Will they be part of the journey? Are they going to be order takers, or are they going to be part of the team that decides the destiny of the company? Those are the things that you need to answer. What kind of people do I want? Do I want a team with me, or do I want order takers? Right? So if I'm going to take the analogy of a cricket team, there is no point in being a captain if you don't have 10 other guys with you. And it takes the effort of all 11 for the team to win. So you have to think about it that way. So this is not a game where there is one person directing. So there is not it's not like the army, you know, where there is one general and then you hire 2 guys to go out there and do all the fighting and shooting. Everybody has to be there in the trenches. Everybody has to fight, and everybody has to apply their brains and their energy and their knowledge to making the company succeed. That's the kind of people you want in the early days. And whether you call him co-founder or not, that matters less, but it matters from one standpoint, your ability to attract good people, because who share your vision, who share your goal and your passion, will come on board if they believe that they are part of the decision making regarding the destiny of the company. Okay?
The next question is coming up from Sachin Prakash. He wants to know how to decide how much share or percentage of equity should he share with his friend who's an employee who is working as a digital marketing expert.
Yeah, see, and of course it depends on the stage of the company and all of that. I'm assuming that, so the question really is from Sachin Prakash. He wants to know how much of a stock on shares to give to a person who's working as a digital marketing executive as an employee in the company. It depends on the stage of the company. If it's a very young company that have just started out and this person is not participating in anything relating to the strategy or the growth of the company as such, it's very hard to throw out a number because one needs to understand the stage of the company that you're at and how crucial this function is to the company. And whether you're paying any cash at all to this person or it's a zero cash and only equity situation and so on. So one needs to know all of that before I can suggest or even think of giving a range. Maybe that question can be answered offline once some more details are provided.
The next one is from Samit Kumar Biswas. He says he has a healthcare startup and is facing huge attrition. They have taken freshers from IIMC and IIT KGP, but are unable to hold them back due to irregular cash flow. So he wants to know what else can he do to retain them in his company.
Yeah. So the important question is this. The question really is from Samir Biswas, who's doing a healthcare startup. He's hired people from IIM and IIT who are not staying with him because of irregular cash flows. The question really to answer is, why did these people join the company in the first place? What was the story told to them at that point? And was that story exciting to them? Was the story that, hey, you know what, we're going to change healthcare? What was the story? Is that story still valid today? And yes, some people will leave because of irregular cash flows, because they have financial commitments. There is competition that is poaching on good talent, no question about it. But there are others who are staying in the company. The question is, why are they staying? And that is something that needs to be answered. It is not an easy question to answer, I admit, but one has to get to the root of it. So if my business is not doing well and there's only so much that I can do to hold people back, that's a reality of life. Nobody's going to stay with me forever because everyone has their own financial commitments and other aspirations in life. And therefore, what do I have to do to be able to get some regularity in cash flows into my business? Should I raise investment? Should I take a loan? Should I do something? Can I grow my sales? What is it that I can do that will enhance my cash flows? Number one. Number two was, as I mentioned earlier, why did the people join in the first place? Is that story still valid? Was the reasons given to them at that point still true? And third, the people who are staying back, why are they staying back? What do they see in the company that the others don't?
Puneet Agarwal has this next question for you. He says his is a family business and has never had a professional corporate setup. He anticipates his company to enter into the growth phase. Now he has a problem here because he thinks he's not good at interviewing candidates to select them. What can you suggest that he can overcome this problem?
Yeah, so a question from Puneet Agarwal, who's running a family business, entering a growth phase, wants to know how to interview professionals. The response is pretty straightforward. If you don't know something, you have to learn and get the support of those who know. So therefore, why not set up an interview panel with him and a few industry experts who are HR experts or people from the relevant domain that your family business operates in, and form an interview panel of 2 or 3 people. Ideally, I would suggest 3 people who form an interview panel, and then who will help you go through the process of understanding what kind of people you need, why do you need, how many people do you need, what kind of compensation you would have to provide, what kind of culture one needs to create to be able to retain these people, not just hire them. How do you therefore have growth programs for them? What kind of empowerment will these people have in the company? Is it still going to be a top-down driven company, or will they have freedom to operate? And number of issues are involved. So therefore, it is advisable to get have a small panel who will help set up all of these kinds of parameters, have clarity on it, then go out and find the candidates who can be interviewed by this panel.
Mohammad Rajiv is a entrepreneur who's in a pre-venture stage. He has identified a few people to discuss his idea with him, and he's going to be meeting them soon. He wants to know what precaution should he take before disclosing his idea, or how does he go about discussing his idea and protecting it until the initial launch.
Okay. See, unless you have something really path-breaking, so the question really is, how do I protect my idea when I'm going to be discussing it with a few others? The response to that is, there is no idea in the world that cannot be copied and launched by anyone else. So the real competitive edge you have, the protection you have, is in the execution. How quickly and how innovatively can you execute? So unless you built a path-breaking algorithm or you found something really unique, then it is not in your interest to hold anything back in discussions with others, because you want the best people to join you.
The next question is from Samir Nigam. He says he produces online learning content and learning management systems for large corporates in India. He is looking for hiring senior resources for specialist skills. He wants to know how to know whether the new hire is performing well in the first month itself, because after that he feels it's a big drain of money waiting to know whether he is a good person or not.
Okay, so what is one important thing is, in the first, it depends on who you're hiring and what kind of position is getting filled. If you're hiring salespeople, then giving a 1 month time window for evaluation is very low. In fact, it's very low for anybody. So therefore, having the right kind of what are called KRAs, key result areas. How do you measure a key result area? Who's going to do the measurement? And then the frequency of measurement, all that has to be understood. And then only should the hiring be done. And during the process of hiring, the individual who's being hired has to be made aware that this is the system, that this is what I expect you to be able to deliver in this kind of a time frame, with this kind of a margin, or with this kind of productivity, or whatever else it is that is expected to be delivered, so that there are no surprises on both sides. And once that agreement has been reached, then you draw out a monthly or a schedule of deliverables and tasks and methods of monitoring and measurement, and maintain that and monitor it maybe once a week or so, but give it a reasonable amount of time. I would say at least 3 months before taking a call on whether to fire or to retain.
Rahul Banka has this next question for you. He wants to know what are the key terms of employment that should be agreed with your team.
Well, the key points of employment are pretty straightforward, right? You have a standard agreement that will talk about the compensation and so on. Then it talks about what is the benefits to the employee. Is there a medical policy? Is there a travel policy? Is there a vacation policy? Is there a whatever else, right? A reimbursement policy, etc. Is there a stock option plan? Is there a non-solicitation clause? Is there a confidentiality clause? Is there a conflict of interest clause? Right? These are all the standard clauses.
There's one popular question that is repeatedly coming up here again, I think. I'll be picking one of them from the list here. Kushal Aralihalli has a company in web applications. and he does not have enough funds to hire. So he wants to know how can he build a team with the little funds that he has for his company.
See, and that's a tough problem, right? Because everybody has little funds. The question is this: if you have little funds and you are starting off on your very early stage, your number one selling tool is your passion and vision for the company. And what is it that you're willing to part with to attract the right person? Okay, and here's an example I will share with you. In 1981, a guy called Vinod Khosla started a company called Sun Microsystems. He wanted to hire the best hardware designer that existed in Stanford and Silicon Valley, a guy called Andy Bechtolsheim. Andy was selling hardware designs to anyone for $10,000 each. So Vinod Khosla with no money goes to him and says, Andy, I want you to join my company and this is what I'm planning to build. This is how I'm planning to build it, blah, blah, blah. And I want you to join. Andy Bechtolsheim told him, why don't you just take one of my designs? I'll give it to you, just pay me $10,000 and you use the design and build what you want to build. Vinod Khosla told him, I don't want the golden eggs. I want the goose that lays the golden eggs. Then Andy Bechtolsheim asked him, then what do I get? Why should I do that? Vinod Khosla gave up 50% of Sun Microsystems to attract Andy Bechtolsheim to join. Right? So the question really therefore is, in your own mind, what's the value of having this person on your team? What is it you're willing to give up? And is your vision and passion strong enough? And are you able to sell and communicate it well enough for someone to join? And obviously you have to keep going around trying to raise money anyway to be able to fund these guys.
Samir has another question for you. He wants to know how useful are portals such as Times Jobs, Naukri.com, etc. for hiring your team? Or should you be hiring them after interacting with each other in person?
Your initial hires, right? I'm saying your initial bunch of people that you want to hire, your core team as it were, should come from referrals and through networks. Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yes. The next question is from Varun Rai. He's currently working in a software development company and plans to start his own software development company. But since he's not, doesn't have funds and he cannot do the hiring, so he wants to know whether is it a good idea to leave his current job, take the hit and start finding projects and invest that money for hiring, or should he play safe and try taking projects and build the team while he continues his current job?
Yeah, see, while you do your current job, you have to also look at your agreement with your employer, right? Does your employment contract have a conflict of interest clause that says that whatever you're doing should not be at conflict with your current employment? So if you're doing it, let us say after office hours in an area that is not in conflict with what you are doing as part of your job, then I would suggest that you consider doing it outside of your office hours or working hours, in parallel.
We'll be taking the last two questions for the day. The penultimate one is from Sachin Taneja. He says he's got two companies shortlisted for his web application project. Company A is a 4-people company who takes small projects and have quoted 2.5 lakhs for it. And company B is a big company with experienced professionals who are passionate about their work and also interested in his business idea. They want to work on his idea, I'll help him in developing his business. But they have quoted a huge amount of rupees 19 lakhs and are also seeking equity in lieu of it. So he wants to know whom should he be going with ideally.
Yeah, ideally he is with somebody who shares your vision, your passion, and has a long-term view of the business. Obviously, they have to be capable and competent as well, right? I'm assuming they're equally capable and equally knowledgeable and so on. If all that is true, and they believe in what this guy is trying to do, then it is important that you engage with them, that you get them to see your passion and part with equity. I gave you the example of Vinod Khosla and Ankti Bektosham. Part with equity, because having a great team what stays with you for the next 4-5 years and helps you build something fantastic is worth it. Obviously, you will negotiate on the quantum, but essentially I'm saying from the standpoint of principles and from the standpoint of a model, that would be the direction to go.
The last question for the day is coming up from Bharat. He wants to know whether a co-founder is really necessary for all the startups for it to grow and become into a big venture.
Like I said earlier, it doesn't matter what the nomenclature is. What matters is whether a person is a co-founder or not a co-founder is a matter of name. The question is, does he have stake in the company? Does he share that? So who's going to be doing all the work? So it is not necessary that every company should have a co-founder. What has been found is that it takes more than one person to build a great company, and therefore you need a team to be able to build something worthwhile.
Thank you very much for that interesting session. Thank you to all our attendees for participating in the webinar. We are glad that the questions kept coming in, but due to a lack of time, we are unable to answer them all.
Now, if there are some more questions, we can handle that, yeah?
Fine. I mean, there are quite a few questions here. And
Okay, go ahead. I'm happy to spend another 10 minutes,
okay,
so go ahead.
Okay, sure. Viral Shah has this question for you. Like you mentioned that hire someone who knows more than you. He wants to know, how do you deal with such employees and how do you train them?
How do you train them?
Yes, as in working. I mean, I'm believing that he wants to know, how would you build a good professional working environment with them when you know that they know more than you?
See, but professional working environment has got nothing to do with the knowledge. Knowledge is required in execution of a particular task or a job. And every person does not know what the other person does, right? I mean, you don't know that Sunil Mittal, who runs Airtel, is not an expert on running networks. He has a chief technology officer who knows more than him. His head of marketing knows more than Sunil Mittal on how to do marketing for telecom. Similarly with Mukesh Ambani, similarly with everybody else, with Azim Premji and Narayan Murthy and everyone. The question is, how do you hire these people and how do you create an environment that gives them the freedom to execute? And what it means is, you should be aware. I need not know at an atomic level what is happening, but I should know at a high level, and I should know what are the expected outputs of every job and every task. And that is very simple for me to be able to use to manage. Then I have to create the right kind of environment and culture for these people to work, so that they give off their best. There must not be any politics, there must not be any petty stuff, there must be transparency in communication and things of that nature. So all these are managerial skills. They've got nothing to do with the knowledge of any one individual or the other.
The next one is from Amit Raje. He wants to know, how does one do a trade-off between long-term stability when compared to short-term deliverability while building a team?
Yeah, look, the long term is nothing but a series of short terms, right? And therefore, if that is true, then the kind of people that you want to stay with should be culturally tuned to the company, number one, meaning they must share the goal of the company. Number two is they must be competent and capable people, meaning each one is good at what he or she does. These are the two fundamental requirements. And if both these requirements will be met, somebody will stay with you for some time, somebody will leave in a short period of time because there are other reasons and other aspirations that they may have. But don't compromise on fundamentals.
Puneet Agarwal has the next question for you. He wants to know, are there any ways in which you can judge the attitude of a person at the interview stage itself?
Yeah, so the attitude of a person is judged through many ways, right? Obviously, when you do the interview, you can, you can ask those kinds of questions, put them under pressure, all of that. Number two, do what is called a due diligence. Speak to their friends, speak to their former employers, speak to their, look and see if you have connects on the social media, on LinkedIn and other places. Send mails to people and get a reference on this person. And you'll get if you spend time, you can talk to enough people who will give you a good idea of the person and knowing what questions to ask. How does this person behave under stress? What has this person's real experience been outside of the resume? What was the challenging things that he has done? What is the innovative things he or she has done? What is his team building capacity? If he's built a team, then why don't you talk to somebody who was part of his team? So that's the kind of way you would do to find out.
The next question is from Rahul Banka. He wants to know that what he believes is that guys with an enterprising bent of mind are really rare. He wants you to suggest some forums where he can interact with such professionals whom he can bring into his company.
Yeah, so his point is right that enterprising people are rare. Most people are happy working for somebody else. Being enterprising and having a gung-ho attitude. Yeah, so you'll find such people in different forums. Typically, a lot of startup forums, startup organizations. Whether it is the larger ones like TIE and so on, or the younger ones, or the smaller ones, whether it is your startup Saturdays, your coffee clubs, your protos, and bunch of startup events. Excuse me. There are startup forums on LinkedIn. Go there, become friends with people, get talking. Go to events. There are a lot of events conducted by the likes of NEN, by the likes of Your Story, and the likes of Next Big What. So go and meet people. See, there is no shortcut to building a business that involves people. You have to go and meet people and use everything, whether it's physical, going to events, being present on media, social media, talking to people, connecting with them, speaking to them on the phone, getting reference checks done, all of those things. Use your contacts from college, use your contacts from your earlier workplace, do all of those things.
The next, and I presume this could be our last question, this is from Luchita Tembhare. He wants to know, are there any possible traits that can be looked into for top management recruitment?
Traits for top management recruitment?
Yes. Probably what he means to say is it, what could be the possible trait that should be looked into for top management recruitment?
Okay. So I think I'd mentioned some of that, right? In terms of, does this person have a long-term vision that is in line with what this company wants to achieve? Is there a cultural fit in terms of value systems, in terms of ethics, in terms of treating people with respect, things of that nature? Is there the congruence there? Second, can this person handle teams? How good is he or she, excuse me, in being able to attract talent? in being able to manage talent, in being able to grow talent. How does this person react under pressure? Can this person deliver on severely difficult time-bound projects? Is this person a good brand ambassador for the company? So these are all some of the things that you would want to look at.
Thank you, Sanjay, for that session. I think will be winding up now. And thank you for all the attendees for participating too. You can tweet feedbacks at @NEN India. The recorded version of the webinar will be available at www.youtube.com/user/eClubNEN online by tomorrow. Also join us for our next webinar on how to create and build right motivational structures by Mr. Prashant Bhaskar on October 30th, 3 to 4 p.m. We also have some free workshops lined up for you entrepreneurs. There's a workshop on getting to market in Mumbai on 26th of October, one on company formation in Pune on November 23, and one on getting to market on the 30th of November in Bhubaneswar. Thank you once again and have a nice evening.
Thank you everybody. Thank you very much.